I thought the Globers were good as far as being able to talk about high level stuff. The only problem with it is when they start talking about high level stuff, I no longer can follow very well. So it's a tricky thing trying to balance, talking about first order versus second order versus fourth order or whatever, and whatnot. So anyway, that was sort of an interesting thing trying to balance those things. That was just sort of something I gleaned from the debate.
Thank you very much. Leo, first impressions?
I would agree with Brenda. I was quite impressed with Daryl. I I was wondering in the debate, I know how quiet he was going to be. He was pretty quiet. He didn't talk much, but when he did, it was usually a smackdown. I thought PhD Tony was all right. I don't think he was that out of control or anything like that. So overall, I think that Daryl and Tony did exceptionally well, particularly at handling the strung together nonsense that people like Toby and Alan frequently say.
Perfect. Thank you very much. I want to welcome everyone who is joining from the MDD channel. This is Matters Now, where we do after shows. And right now, if you are a flat earther, the link to join the stage is pinned to the top. You're more than welcome to come and join us, and we can have a discussion on how the debate went tonight. Everyone is welcome, and we try to make a fair and balanced ambience for everyone. Let's go ahead and give our opinions on the opening. Let's start on the flat earth side, and we'll do the round on the inverse. So Leo, you start. What do you think about the flat earth opening?
Well, I think that the opening showed exactly what I predicted in the pre-show, and that was that rather than focusing on the actual shape of the Earth and reasons for thinking that it's flat, they kind of just talked about how the ether exists and special relativity is wrong. They talked about ether cosmology the whole time. And even throughout the debate, they kept consistently trying to pull it back to Michelson-Morley or some other experiment that shows how special relativity is wrong, rather than actually focusing on the shape of the Earth and the observations that we use to show that it is spherical. And I guess I'll leave it there.
All right. Yeah, we can go into the details during the open discussion portion of the show. And I'm going to hand it over to Dr. J. What did you think about the Flat Earth opening tonight?
I think they were prepared. They had something to get prepared, and I think them referencing papers, whether they're understanding them or not, that's a different question, I guess. I certainly don't understand them, but they reference them, and that's good. And I think they're organized and they have a prepared thing, and I think that's a good job on their part. I think openings that don't have anything are bad. So anyway, I thought it wasn't bad.
Thank you very much, Isa.
I like Leo said, it's exactly what I said. It was everything that I said. All the words that I said, they were there. We heard it. The Michelson Morley was there. Kinematic equivalence was there. Everything that I said that was going to be there was there. So I think that was kind of cute. I'm going to agree with Dr. J too, that I think in debates it's not about what is factual. This is another thing that I brought up. You can't prove that. You can't prove what's right in 2 hours. You need a lifetime to prove any kind of thing, and maybe even more than that. This is not something that is an easy thing to do. You have to prove your case. So did they prove their case in the standard that they were presenting? Sure, fine. So whether we know if it's true or not, they were able to make a case and defend that case.
Fair enough. Thank you very much. Brenda, thoughts on the Flat Earth opening? Oh, thank you for fixing that mic. You're sounding perfect now.
Oh, that's great, because it's hard for me to know. I agree with Tony when he said that, the shape of an object, and he held up cube, I think it was, a Rubik's Cube,
Mm-hmm.
that the shape of the Rubik's Cube doesn't have anything to do with its motion, whether it's rotating or moving through space or anything. So, I mean, logically, the Earth, I mean, geocentrism could be true, and the Earth still wouldn't be flat. You know, there could be an ether, and the Earth still, and geocentrism could be true, and the Earth still wouldn't be flat. You have to prove the geometry of the Earth, and the last thing flat earthers ever want to do is to discuss evidence for the claim that the Earth is a geometric flat disk.
Thank you very much. Billy, what are your thoughts on the flat Earth opening?
Well, like Issa said, Alan brought up the kinematics and dynamics. Toby, I think his best arguments were we use stationary equations for certain things that are for short distances, though. But he doesn't want to mention that part of it. Tried to prove the ether. Mentioned ether wind. I believed he was talking too fast too. Might have been just me, but I felt like he was talking a bit too fast because he was trying to get out so much information. I felt like he was trying to rush it a little bit too much, and he was questioning dark matter and dark energy is something that I feel is maybe one of the best arguments they have.
Thank you very much. And yeah, I do share the sentiment with everyone. I did appreciate the fact that they brought papers, they brought something a little bit more tangible than we sometimes get, rather than conjecture and religious belief. And Stephanie, her predictions also came true, because not only the panel does predictions here, our audience does predictions too, and a bunch of our predictions came true. So I see that there are some people who support the flat Earth. Please feel free to click on the link on the top of the side chat, and you may come on stage and give us your opinion, where we accept everyone in the stage and we will listen to what you have to say. All right, now for the globe opening, let's go ahead and send it over to Billy. Give us your thoughts on the opening for the globe side.
All right, for Tony, I thought it was good. I think Brenda mentioned it about the shape of an object. It doesn't mean that it doesn't, like, if you could prove a shape of an object, it doesn't matter if it's moving or not. So that, like, I mean, if you can prove a shape, it doesn't matter if it's moving. So that is one of the things. And for Daryl, I think, I mean, his opening wasn't very strong, but he used the pictures and evidence, and I saw him use the solar eclipse in his other debate that he had with that Wonton guy, and that's about it.
Okay, thank you very much. Brenda, thoughts on the globe opening?
Yeah, as far as Daryl goes, I really appreciated he went to some effort to make a PowerPoint slide presentation, and that was very good. It was nicely organized and well thought out. And yes, Tony made that point, and then Tony does work for oil companies. What his work does is allows him to detect areas where you could drill and increase the probability of finding oil. And in order to do that, he models the crust. And one of the things he said is that they treat the crust of the Earth as flat up to, what did he say, 200 miles or
200 kilometers.
200 kilometers, right? So, and a lot of times flat earthers, they just hear flat and they get excited. But they're just treating it as if it's flat, just because it makes everything so much easier. But yeah, he does that. If the Earth was a globe and if gravity wasn't real, he couldn't be doing his job. And he finds oil in the ground, right? No flat Earth theory can do that.
Thank you very much. And before I hand it over to Isa, it's probing time 666. The devil made me do it. Gifted 5 Matters Now memberships, which went to Coffee Breath, Michael Fraker, Heat Shield, Duarte Cunha Leao, and Justin Johnson. Welcome to Matters Now. You now have access to our exclusive icons in your chats, and welcome to the membership of the channel. Isa, what are your thoughts on the globe side opening?
I think it was solid. I think it was good. I agree with my colleagues on the panel. I think the presentation was helpful. I think the arguments are good. I just think that one thing that can be difficult in these spaces is just learning how to simplify this information. I think that's just on both sides of these conversations. It would I think Dr. J and I are in deep agreement about this. It's like, if you're debating, you've got to hyper simplify this stuff. And that would be more helpful. But I definitely think what was given was fine. I could follow it well enough. But so, yeah, I'd say solid based.
Thank you very much, Isa. Dr. J? Oh, you're muted, sorry.
I agree with Isa on that, on the simplification, and I think PhD Tony's the distance with the doing the math triangle versus on a flat versus globe, and how the math would be different, and therefore you could just measure that by like a train or whatever. I think is really, really compelling. If the flat earthers answered it, I didn't understand their answer. Maybe they did, maybe they thought that, but I wasn't able to follow it. I really feel like that presentation's very, very strong. Daryl's was he certainly prepared. He was there. He had put some effort into it. I do agree with that, but I didn't find it as compelling or quite as good. But I did appreciate that he worked. I thought he did some excellent work later that I appreciated. But anyway, they both did a very nice job. They were both prepared. They take it seriously. So I thought that it was a good work.
Thank you very much. Leo, take it away.
So to start with Daryl, I actually thought his presentation was just fine. Using images is just fine in your debate. All the flat earther has is, well, those are just CGI, and that's it. Ask him, okay, show me how, and they have nothing because they can't show you how. I also really liked the part of his presentation where he talked about the solar eclipses and how when you're going out of summer, it looks like one way, but then when you're coming into summer, it looks opposite as a result of the tilt of the Earth and where the Earth is positioned in its orbit around the sun. I thought that was a very, very strong point for confirming the overall model. I thought Tony's presentation was very strong, and usually is, where he actually uses direct observations that we can make in real time, where the flat Earth predicts some distance, the spherical Earth predicts some distance, and the observations always only ever corroborate the spherical Earth model, and that, the flat Earthers need to bring something that shows that their model is better, that it's more explicative. They clearly didn't do that. But yeah, I thought both of their intros were quite strong and made some very good points in favor of spherical Earth.
Thank you very much. I think I want to get water, but I think you mentioned that about the pictures, that's not the best approach when dealing with flat earthers, right?
No, I said it's just fine to do, because the only response they have is, well, it's all CGI, and that's just not a response. That's a non-response.
I have a little bit of a different opinion. I think kind of the opposite, that knowing that they will hand wave pictures, I think it's not something to waste time on, waste, like, quote unquote, right? But I do think that Tony's opening was stronger than Daryl's, but when it came to the discussion, I was kind of expectant on Daryl was silent, and then he got into his specific topic and gave us a very, very precise description of what's happening with the whole Michelson-Morley experiment controversy. I think that was very good. And with that, we're going to go into the next prompt. What do you think is in general or specific to this debate, I'm not going to constrain you in your answer, the best argument for the flat Earth? And I'm going to send it over to Billy right here.
Well, I think if you already don't trust the government, or if you think they're lying to you, it's harder for you to believe what the government says. And also, maybe if you can't understand about dark matter and dark energy, that might be the best argument, because that's something that's hard to explain.
Thank you very much, Billy. Brenda, what do you think is the best argument for flat Earth in this debate in particular, or in general?
In general, I'd say it isn't obviously round. So thinking that the Earth is generally flat is a conclusion that you can come to, sort of a naive conclusion you can come to until you start, looking and thinking about it. I mean, even the Greeks could understand that they came to the conclusion the Earth is a globe. But prior to the Greeks, I think a lot of cultures did think the Earth was flat, and that's because they live in a small local area, and small local areas on Earth are pretty close to flat. So that would be why. That would be the best argument, I think. It just kind of looks flat, but you got to do more than that.
Thank you very much. Isa, what do you think is the best argument for the flat Earth in general or specifically during this debate?
So I'm going to use the debate because I think it's an interesting argument. And it can be, I don't know if we would say it's overall, but I think it was kind of important. And I would say it's that their argument is, you say that we're fringe thinkers. We don't know what we're talking about. But guess what? The scientists support us. Your scientists, your so-called standard scientists agree with us. Look at Michelson Morley. They support us. Look at Wang and Yao. They support us. These are academic scholars. Your PhDs, your scientists support our beliefs. We are using your sources to support us. And I think that's very compelling.
Thank you very much, Isa. Dr. J, same question.
I agree with Brenda completely on this, as far as it's just not obvious that it's round. If you just go look outside, it looks flat. And I think that is really good. Also, spinning super fast and not feeling it, while we can explain that, or globals can explain that. I can't explain much of anything regarding this, but globers can explain that. It does seem hard to believe that we're moving that fast. So I think she's right on. But I also definitely agree with Isa for this debate. When they reference academic papers, that seems really, really good. It makes them seem less fringy. Look, no, we're not. It's not like we won't read academics. It's not like we don't care about this. We're in on this. And as someone who does have a lot of sort of history in academics, it's not like people that aren't academics can't train themselves to read the papers. That's not outside of possibility. If you really want to go read the dumb things, you can. And if you want to grind out and work really hard and read the papers, you can. Now, it's hard, especially depending on the subject and your background. It can be really hard, but you can. And I think them saying, hey, we've done the work, we've done the effort, we've grinded, we've read these papers, we've looked at them carefully. They show them, they're highlighted. They've demonstrated we can. I'm assuming they're being honest when they say we went over this for multiple hours. I think that is a good look for them. It's a good way to go.
Thank you very much, Dr. J. And Leo, best argument for flat Earth in general, or?
I think it's just, well, it looks flat. That's the best they got. I think with some of the arguments where they try to use science and cite scientific papers is that those arguments might be strong, and I mean strong in like when we talk about like inductive arguments, where a strong argument might have true premises, but can have a false conclusion. But they don't have any cogent arguments that are strong and have true premises. So in the instance of citing some of these papers, they might be, some of what they're saying might be true, but that doesn't mean that their conclusion isn't still false. So, and strength and cogency are to inductive arguments what validity and soundness are to deductive arguments.
Thank you very much, Leo. And I would tend to agree with everyone. The general sentiment being that, yeah, it appears flat in many cases, but there's a perfectly valid explanation for that. So before we go into the next prompt, our good friend Rodney sends a $5 super chat. Thank you very much, Rodney. Tell me more. Panel, is it worth the time and effort to keep these FE versus Globe debates alive? If so, why? And I'm going to start with Leo right here.
I would say yes, primarily because they're they're entertaining.
Leo, wait. Let me hand it over to Dr. J, and we'll get back to you.
No, I'm good. I promise, I'm good now. I just needed to make a nice hefty cough there. Anyway, yeah, I think that they're entertaining, and I think that that's why we do them in the first place. I don't think either side is trying to convince people of anything other than maybe some people in like the audience. We do it because it's entertaining and it's fun. But I do think that maybe there is a sense in which, you know, some people walk away, not whether they're flat earth or even globe earth, they can still walk away learning something. Maybe it was some tidbit or some fact that was shared in the debate, and you know, like, oh well, I didn't know that. That's pretty cool. So there might be some value to them in that respect, but I think largely the value is entertainment. And I don't think that's wrong or bad.
Thank you very much for your answer, Dr. J.
I do enjoy debate. I enjoy talking to people, but I personally wouldn't mind a different subject that we debated and talked about. So is it worth keeping alive? If people enjoy it and have fun, I think it's just completely fine. If people like it, if they enjoy it, it's a way to look into physics or whatever, or you know, whatever. I think it's totally fine to do it. But I think a lot of the globe people are doing it for the fun. The flat earth people, I think, really think it matters. And then maybe some globe people think it matters because it makes people deny science. I'm not really sure. I personally am just like, hey, it's fun. Debating's fun. You know, it's fun to talk about debates. I think MDD and we are such small fish that I don't think we're really changing the world by platforming people, in my opinion.
Thank you very much. Isa?
Is it worth it? It's actually something I'm pretty conflicted on. I think, to me, I take sort of a libertarian position in life. I believe in freedom of speech. So it's very important for me that we do have different conversations with different values. And I do like that about MDD, is that there are different kinds of values in different systems. I would push MDD to go further in like even intra-religious dialogue if we're going to go into certain spaces where I don't think that has occurred very much, like at least in religious debates. I've seen mostly like certain kind of standard narratives, and I'm like, yeah, I think you can go further than this, but that would require that you know the diversity pool of religion. But that's neither here nor there. But in this particular kind of conversation, I think there's a real passion for flat Earth, because I feel that a lot of the flat earthers feel silenced, and this is a space where they can have a voice, you know, to like a larger audience, because most folks believe the Earth is a globe or some kind of sphere, maybe not like a perfect 360 orb, but you know, some kind of spherical shape as opposed to a pancake. So it's kind of like a space where it's like, hey, I can advocate for my worldview and have, you know, other people who may never have heard about this hear about it. Like, I think probably a lot of folks in the panel, this was just like a completely foreign thing. And then when it popped up, you're like, what people actually believe this, you know? And I think that is interesting. I think that is the value of the conversation, is it allows for more voices to appear that may not really have a voice.
Thank you very much, Isa. Brenda, take it away.
I'm not sure it's important for modern day debate. I'm not sure it's good for them. I think that modern day debate might do better if they banned flat Earth and they could get more serious topics, because I just think it might benefit modern day debates better if they tried to be more of a serious debate platform, because some of the debaters are really embarrassing and make the channel look bad. But as far for me, I enjoy it because, like I said, I enjoy debating, but also I get motivated to look these things up. So with this Mickelson Morley, I don't have a background in relativity, and so I've been reading and trying to figure it out. And it's, at first glance, the takeaway that you read is easy enough to understand, but if you get deeper into it, it's harder to understand. And it's flat Earth motivates me to better myself by looking up the answers to the questions that they raise. And I think that's the value it has for me. But I'm not sure about modern day debates. I kind of think they would be better off if they didn't. But I'm not 100% sure about that, but I kind of think so.
Thank you very much. Billy, your thoughts on Rodney's super chat?
Yeah, I agree with Brenda that it's I find it challenging to look up things where I might not be able to have evidence off the top of my head. I have to look it up and say, oh, well, maybe I learned something new. And I'm also learning new things sometimes when people are bringing up things I don't know about.
Yeah, from now on, everybody should just agree with me. just agree with me.
Can I make a couple comments on
I'm
what's
kidding.
been said?
Yes, of
Oh,
course.
were you done, Billy?
Oh, yeah, I'm done. Yeah, go ahead, Leo.
Okay. So with respect to what Dr. J, and Issa were getting at, I kind of agree. I even wish there was some more, maybe what some might consider esoteric concepts debated on MDD. Like, I would love to debate somebody on, like, does dark matter actually exist or something like that. But I even, like, within ethics or religious philosophy, theology, philosophy of religion, like, we don't see much of, like, did the universe have a beginning? Is God required for morality? Is the universe fine-tuned for life? We don't see a lot of those debates much anymore. They used to be hosted a lot more frequently, but you don't see those much anymore. And that's something that honestly kind of upsets me, because those were the debates that initially drew me to the channel, as well as, some of the political ones. I still think that MDD's doing all right on the political debates, but yeah, there's some topics that I wish were discussed a little bit more, particularly within philosophy. And then with respect to what Brenda said, I almost agree. I don't know if I would ban flat Earth debates, but I think that if modern day debate did host some of, like, the topics that I've talked about, and even tried to get some more of the like professionals in the area on the channel, people like Josh Rasmussen, people like Kenny Pierce, that would be willing to come on, I think that would help. But another thing you have to look at is when we have the kind of debates, like, is what's the one example I gave? Or, yeah, is God required for morality? When we have those debates, you get 400, 500 people watching. The debates like we had tonight, there was over 1,000 people watching, and I think that fact might have something
Yes.
to do with it. Yeah, there was like 1,070 or 1,075, about 1,100 at the highest. But I and I'm not trying to say anything bad about MDD or about James or any of his moderators, but I mean, I think most people are probably going to gear themselves towards content that tends to get them higher views and more super chats. I just think that's kind of a YouTuber thing.
Yeah, fair enough. I think that yeah, a lot of has to do with how the Flat Earth has a really, really big audience that is really loyal and goes to support the Flat Earth debaters, no matter who they are. And they're there watching all of the debate from start to finish, and they send super chats. And yeah, what maybe could do a little better for the channel is give it a little break, because we've had so many in a row, and I see this come up in the side chat on the debates themselves all the time, that there's been like too many in a row in the past couple of months. But then again, I mean, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? So there's a lot that has to go there into considering what happens with the channel and what makes the channel money, because at the end of the day, a lot of this has to do with the conversation, with putting these things out there, but it also has to work as on the business side.
Are you
So
associated? Are you associated with MDD, Max?
I'm a moderator on
But
the
that's the
chat.
extent of it. That's the extent.
Yes,
Oh,
yes.
just curious.
Me too.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
involved.
I just volunteer to mod, because I'm also a moderator on the Modern Day Debate Discord. So yeah, I kind of help out there because I like it. But that's about it. And talking about Discord, if you go to discord.gg/matters now, you can join our Discord and you can stay up to date in everything that's coming up. We have some extra content on the Discord. You can have chats directly with us. You can find us there, tag us, ask us things. So uh, it's a good place to hang out. We have a lot of people, and it's been growing lately. Before we go into the next prompt, I'm going to read a couple of messages. I'm going to repeat the message again. If you support the Flat Earth, come on stage. We want to hear from you. Matters Now is open to everyone, and we would really like, we appreciate when the show is actually not homogeneous in the beliefs. Today we have all of people who support the globe, but we really appreciate when we have all kinds of people in our stage. Huhaman says they do the academic people what some people do with Bible study. They interpret it in whatever way they want to that serves their world view.
Exactly.
Thank you, Huhaman, for your comment. Flat
Well, good
Sabbath
attempt,
says
Francis.
level plump are flat regardless of what you believe. I'm going to save this question because we're going to maybe touch a little bit on this during the open discussion. So thank you for your message, Flat Sabbath, and we really appreciate you being a supporter of the channel and hanging out with us in our shows. Michael Fracker, who became a member today from the gifts that were handed out, recommendation to globe arguers: refuse to engage with any argument that doesn't directly relate to Earth shape. I do kind of agree a little bit on that, but that being said, sometimes you cannot control where the other side wants to take the conversation, and you can just, it's a debate. You can just make a stand and say, okay, I'm not going to talk about that. I'm not going to talk about that. I mean, there's a little give and take over there. Let's go quickly if anyone has any comments on what Michael Fraker sent us. If not, we can move on.
Yeah, you can't control what the other person is, only to a certain degree. Only if you prearrange the questions beforehand. But that might be a thing to do, which is to have a set questions or have them determined beforehand.
Yeah, or set a limit on the amount of topics. Yeah, that would be a little bit on the way to go, kind of. But it should be arranged beforehand. You can't just spring something like that in the middle of a debate just because that would be a little bit not the way to go during a debate. Tim
Well,
Rob says,
once again, just agree with me, Max.
Wait, I just wanted to say something on the last comment. Can I say something on that?
yes, of course.
So, also, I wanted to comment on something you had said before about modding. It is so rough. Like tonight, you and I are the moderators there, and it was like just a bombardment of horrible comments, like attacking people. It's a hell zone. I don't know how else to call it, a hellscape. But to engage the point, um, I think you need ground rules. I think that's an important thing in debates. Like if we have a wild, wild west debate and we don't agree on certain common rules and common ground of engagement, I think that the conversation can go nowhere fast. So I think it would be really helpful to say what is where we're going to engage. What I don't really agree with Michael Fraker saying refuse to engage any argument that isn't, because I'm like, well then you're saying, well, the Globers get to have this special element, but what do the flat earthers get in return? You have to make an agreement where you're like, I'm going to agree on these topics that I'm going to discuss. You can't just say, I don't want to talk about this topic because it doesn't fit with what I want to say. You have to have an equitable situation. And I think that's a reasonable way to look at this. So I think I agree with Brenda. I think you need to have common ground. You need to have a common ground situation, and that
Yeah.
would be supportive to having
You
the
could
discussion.
you could exchange your arguments beforehand. I mean, that's an Oxford style argument, isn't it? I'm not 100% sure, but I think
In law,
you
you
know,
do that. You
yeah.
talk
Mhm.
about the you have discovery. You put all your evidence out there, so you know what you're
Here's
going to be
here's
discussing.
here's what I'm going to say. Here's my evidence for what I'm going to say,
Yes.
and then yeah.
But in my experience, people don't like the overly structured debates. I remember the last one that was between the Trinity and the Tawhid, and people were losing their minds over the format because it was so structured. MDD has us used to openings and discussion straight away. So it kind of throws people for a loop when something like that happens. I noticed a lot of discontent within the chat in that particular debate. So I mean, yeah, it's still a show on YouTube. It's not like a formal thing. So it gets tricky figuring out exactly the balance between how much structure to give it and how much it flows better when you go into the discussion directly. Going to jump into the next message that I have saved. Tim Rob asks us, what is the funniest act of violence you saw, Max? I cannot tell you. I'm sorry, but people say some truly horrible things, to be honest. And a lot of people complain on that their side is being targeted specifically. In my experience, both sides, no matter what the debate is, insult people the same way, and the level of insults they go fair for both sides. It's pretty rough, and we always emphasize that attack the arguments, not the people. You can say an idea is stupid, but don't call people stupid or call people names. It doesn't add up anything at all
Like
to
you
the
ruined it.
conversation.
Can I comment on that?
Coffee, yes, of course.
So first off, I want to reiterate the statement that I made in the pre-show about insults versus an actual argumentum ad hominem, just because I think it's important. They're not the
Okay.
same thing. And I'm going to do the same example. If me and Issa are having a debate and I say, well, you're just a drunkard. I don't care what you have to say. That's an insult. I insulted him. But I didn't commit an argumentum ad hominem. Now, if I said, he's a drunkard, so he's not all there, so we can't really trust him to be able to get the right information, so we should be suspect of his argument. That is an argumentum ad hominem, because what I'm doing is I'm discrediting the argument through an insult, not just merely insulting, and that's the difference. But in this debate, Alan and Toby claimed that Daryl and PhD Tony were gaslighting them. They did no gas. I don't think a lot of people, probably most people who use that word, know what it actually means. When you gaslight somebody, You're not just like insulting them or making fun of them. That's not even remotely what gaslighting is. Gaslighting is speaking to somebody in a way that gets them to call into question their own experiences about themselves and the world, as well as their ability to interpret it and understand it. And that Daryl and Tony weren't even remotely close to doing that. So people just use the word because it's a word out there that people use. So I just wanted to comment those two things with respect to insults.
Thank you very much. Anyone else wants a thought on this, or we can move on so we can get through the prompts? I saved a bunch of messages. All right.
There's actually a movie called Gaslight, which is where the phrase comes from. It was about, it's a black and white, it's one of those older movies called Gaslight. And it's about a husband who is constantly adjusting, because old houses used to use natural gas to light the house. They used to have gas-lit lamps inside the house, and he would turn them down or turn them off, and he eventually drove his wife crazy because he wanted to get rid of her, and by making her question her own sanity. That it's a good movie. I recommend it.
All right. Movie recommendation by Brenda, Gaslight. It's Gaslight or Gaslighting?
Gaslight is the name of the movie. I don't think it doesn't have an ing at the end.
All right, perfect. So recommendation by Brenda. If you get a chance, check it out. If you like old black and white movies. You said black and white, right? I'm sorry, I'm not going crazy.
Yeah, right? It is. Yeah, it is. I've kind of lately gotten into more of the older, especially like film noir, because I get really tired of the modern movies. You know.
I know that Isa and I can certainly appreciate we have a kind of similar taste in movies. So yeah. All right. Going to the next couple of messages.
Dark City, if you have it. It's the 90s.
What was that? I'm sorry.
I was telling Brenda to watch Dark City if she hasn't seen it. Dark City is like really awesome. It's like a 90s noir. Yeah, it's like people say The Matrix was influenced by it too. It's really good.
Yeah, I've heard that it influenced The Matrix. Yes. Okay. And The Matrix was originally going to be about networking and not batteries, but the people that funded it, not the script writers, but the funders, didn't think that the American audiences would understand networking as opposed to just turning humans into batteries.
All right, Robin Webster, our very own Robin Webster, who is going to be one of the first people to be out and about with one of the Matters Now t-shirts. If you didn't know, Matters Now has a store where you can get all kinds of merch with our logo, and we already have plans on expanding the lineup of available merch. So if you want to support the show and show us that you care and share the message where you are out, when you're out and about in the world, you can access Matters Now merchandise, and it's pretty awesome. There's a lot of variety, and we're already in plans to expand the lineup. Thank you, Robin, for gifting one Matters Now membership. I couldn't see who got it. Let me see if I can find it. And me was gifted the membership by Robin. Coffee Bread says, I think Ryan's needs to cap super chat sooner. After an hour or so, say we don't get any super chats that come in after this time or something like that. That is something that has also been brought up before, that we need to set a limit as far as super chats go. But to be fair, the times that there have been those remarks made, like, please don't send any super chat because we don't have any more time, the debaters need to go, people will still send super chats after being notified of that. So
exactly,
honestly, I couldn't tell you what the solution to this
I think the solution is just for the moderators and James to come out and say, hey, look, we don't have time after every debate to read literally every super chat that comes in. The Q&A in some of these videos oftentimes extends the length of the debate itself. So what I think is that it should just be a time limit. 30, maybe 40, 45 minutes of Q&A. Just kind of depends on how the debaters are feeling, how many super chats you get. And just say, look, you can send in super chats. We can't promise that we're going to be able to read all of them because we're limiting our Q&A periods going forward because we're just tired of them being very, very long. And that way people can't complain if their super chats don't get read because they've been warned that it's very likely all of them won't get read. So if you don't want to send in money without your message being read, then we would just recommend against sending a super chat.
Well, some of
the
super chats are offensive, and maybe maybe cracking down on that. I mean, because there was the one that said to Tony, your PhD is CGI and stuff. And there's no need for that.
I would just say don't even read them.
Yeah, that's what I would think too.
Yeah, a lot of those don't get read, but then people complain that their super chat wasn't read and it was like an insult. So yeah, it's a fine line thing to keep.
Then just say, look, we don't read super chats that are insults or that are claims or attacks on the debaters. We only read super chats that have questions or comments that directly engage with the content of the debate. And that's, I think, the best way to do it. Because like you said, if you say, hey, we're not reading any more super chats after this point, so don't send any in, you still get super chat after super chat after super chat. So just give people the warning. We don't read all super chats. We don't have the time. You can send them in, but they might not be read. If they're not, don't complain. And if your super chat isn't a comment or question regarding the content of the debate, it's probably not going to get read. So just keep those in mind when people send in your super chats.
Well, I think there's an even simpler solution to this. You just raise the price. Super chats don't cost $1; they cost $10. And if you still can't read them all, make them $15.
Isn't it the sender that chooses how much they want to send in?
You can refuse to read it if it's not more money.
Well, I don't know. I can't. I think there's a minimum because $2 super chats, at least for me, don't go through.
It's $5. You got to pay $5.
I don't know if they can choose that on their end or not.
The threshold, and that's why it's even less now than it used to be. All the $2 chats aren't read.
Yeah, just raise the price. Just raise it until you get it down to the time you want.
Oh no!
All right.
Is that Wes?
Yes, that's Wesley. Neophyte IRL says, I thought the globe side won being a flat defender. Thank you very much for your opinion. Neo, please know that you are welcome on stage at any point. Justin Johnson says, delusion, cognitive dissonance, and fallacies all the globe side has. We'll get into that in the open discussion. Duke Nukem, what a great game. I just had a flashback to my infancy. That was awesome. They'll never go to the moon. No worries. Daryl Frost say, matters now. Big Bang, did it happen? It's a way more interesting than the shape of the earth. Requires actual science, and we can agree on that. And finally, Team Rob, don't mention shape in flat earth debate. Thank you, everyone. If you want to make sure that your message gets read, you can send a super chat, and we'll make sure that we'll read it. If you have questions for anyone on the panel, you can do that too. I pick the messages that I like the most. So if you want to make sure that it gets read, you know what you have to do. Wesley, welcome to the stage. Did you watch the debate tonight?
Boy.
No.
Okay, thank you.
That was quick. Do you know Wesley?
Yes.
That's why when you asked him, I was just like, oh boy.
I don't appreciate what he did to me last time we had a conversation. So no, thank you. And he didn't watch the debate, so there's no point in having him on the stage.
Awesome.
So you're telling me if I came here, Max, and hadn't watched the debate, you'd kick me? Is that what you're saying?
It depends.
I can't believe you.
It would be one consideration, Leo. One consideration of many.
You are a friend of the show, Leo. But let's say you didn't watch the debate and we are having someone who did watch the debate and wanted to participate, then yeah, for that time I would apologize and I would give the the debate. But
Oh, for sure.
I honestly don't. Uh, I mean, you can watch the video. I don't even remember which one it was, but it was the first show I hosted, and Wesley, like, uh, I don't know how to describe it. It was awful.
Yeah,
So,
I've known him since 2020. I know exactly what you're talking about. It's very difficult to
No
describe.
clue.
all right.
I
We
have
have
no
some
clue who this
people
person
I would like to say hi that have just joined the after show. Mark Reed says, Avast ye mateys. Hello, Mark Reed. You're welcome to the stage. The link is in the side chat. And we also have
Get
Jimmy
your stern in
from
here, you old
Hi.
blubber. I'm sorry.
Exact. That was awesome. Jimmy from Tax TV. Hello, Jimmy. Welcome. Thank you for being here. And we also have, where did I see her? Maya Atkinson. I watched you the other day on the line. That was a great show. If anyone wants to come on stage, and especially if you're a supporter of the Flat Earth, we need some plurality on the panel today. This doesn't regularly happen, but Witsit is having another after show, and yeah, all the flat earthers are over there, except for ones that are loyal to Matters Now. All right, we're going to continue with the prompts, and now we're going to discuss the best argument for the globe, and we're
Question
going to
about the
yes,
prompt. Does it have to be best argument given in specifically this debate, or best argument we think like just overall?
either or is fine.
Okay.
Billy, take it away.
The fact that spherical geometry doesn't work on the flat Earth.
All right, short and sweet. Thank you very much. Brenda.
The 1972 blue marble photograph taken on the way to the moon.
Beautiful.
Excellent. Oh, everyone has them ready, like from the start. Dr. J.
Yeah, by the way, the 1972 one. Later ones were composites, and flat earthers like to conflate the two. But the 1972 was a photograph.
Correct.
Look at this photograph.
Taken with a camera. Taken with a camera and film, which is very important, and there wasn't technology to fake that at the time. Dr. J, take it away.
I certainly think the arguments relating, the shipping and how they did all the shipping and showing that they used the global geometry, long time ago in order to get to where they needed to go, and sort of the historical references that are really old, demonstrating that they used math that would show that the Earth is round, I thought was the best argument for the globe I saw tonight.
All right, thank you very much, Leo.
I would say probably navigation. Because, I mean, we've been using it for 3,000 years, and this is why sailors 3,000 years ago were just surprised that everybody else thought the Earth was flat.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Isa?
I just have to say I love Tony's Australian accent. I love hearing the Australian accent. So that was a win for me. When I heard that Australian, he's like, yes, mate. Yes, mate. And then he called him a dickhead. When I heard him say dickhead, I was like, that's a winner for me. No, but on serious note, I liked the mathematics. Like when they used, I always think that that's helpful to have like formulas that we're able to kind of like, can we put this through a system? Can we test this? I think testing is really important and it's helpful. So when you see all the formulas and you look at the different models and can we test, does this work? And over and over and over again, the formulas showcase the same answers. I think that says something, and I think that's based.
All right, and
I liked when Sir came out from Tony. It's like you don't know what you're talking about, do you, sir?
And I appreciated the ships and the airplanes argument, and also the circumnavigating the globe underwater fiber cables. That is so strong evidence that the Earth is a sphere. And if anyone is interested, I'm going to share in the chat for you to check out two websites which are used ubiquitously in the world of business, which are Marine Traffic and Flight Radar, where you can pretty much get all the objects, whether it's planes or ships that are active in the world right now. And if you look at that, it's absolutely insane the amount of ships and planes that are in the sky or in the water at any given time. So if you're interested, and if you look at the path, you can clearly see that it is a globe. That's also one of my favorite things when it comes to evidence for the globe.
Can I make a quick
Yes,
comment about all that?
of course.
Because a lot of the flat earthers that I have interacted with, that I've been able to ask the question, and a lot of them are more politically conservative leaning, at least in my experience. So a lot of them, support capitalism. They say, "Oh yeah, no, I'm a capitalist. I support capitalism." But then I wonder, do they really think that companies like ExxonMobil that have ships carrying oil worth millions, if not tens of millions of dollars, are all these companies, all these airlines that have to get all these passengers all over the globe, are these CEOs and executives really going to risk millions, hundreds of, potentially even billions of dollars on technology that wouldn't otherwise work if it is true that the Earth is flat? Like, what the fuck? So you think they're that dumb that they're going to use the wrong technology to get their commodities where they need to be so they can make their fucking money? That would never, like, capitalism. I don't care how much of a government conspiracy you claim. Capitalism is what would stop that, because the minute that there was no money to be made in using this style of navigation, they'd immediately fucking drop it and stop using it and go to the one that's going to make them money. Like, this.
You don't understand, Leo. They're part of the Illuminati. It's part of they're hiding God. They're hiding God. That's the most important thing.
I thought their understanding was more like they are using flat Earth on accident. The models are sort of flat Earth on accident. Isn't that? I mean, that's my understanding, right? Like they argue that what we are doing is flat Earth.
Did you know that there's a conspiracy theory that flat Earth is the conspiracy?
Yeah,
it's promoted to keep people dumb.
Yeah, just to steal, man, right? Don't they think the math works because the globe stole the flat Earth stuff? Isn't that
just like
their
the
understanding?
atheists stole morality from the Christians?
That you're changing subjects, but I maybe I'm not understanding them correctly, but just an attempted.
No, that was I was.
I think I've heard some flat earthers express opinions kind of like that, but I'm not sure I really understand it. But right. I know your point is not wrong. I think I've heard some say something like that, but I'm not too sure on the detail.
Yeah, I've heard them claim that we can't build anything that they used to be able to build in ancient times, but yet we can build things that are a lot bigger now. So I mean,
yeah, like the Burj Khalifa. Like,
I mean, dude, I don't know.
Has anybody like watched the documentaries out there on modern U.S. supercarriers? Holy fucking shit! They can carry like they're literally little floating cities. That's what they are. That has its own airport.
But Leo, were they bigger than the giants, huh? Or were they bigger than the trees?
Oh my God, the trees one is. Oh, I love that one so much because there's so much oxygen, like 6 miles up in the atmosphere.
Yeah. Have you ever seen the guy with the feather? Do you know who I'm talking about?
I don't think so.
He holds a feather and he like points at rocks and things, and he thinks that they're
yeah, mud fossil.
Mud fossil, yes. Mud fossil university, yes.
Yeah, that guy. Oh man, he's out there.
He's something. He is something. One of my favorite people on the internet, Beamsy, is joining us and says, sextant will not work on any flat Earth model, and I think I share that sentiment. And there's, if you are interested in finding more about this, Bob the Science Guy has a couple of videos on sextants that go into a lot of detail. So we're going to open the next prompt, which is the open discussion. It's usually more interesting because we tend to have flat earthers here, but anyone, you're free to bring up a subject. I'm gonna take a little quick trip to the restroom and I'll be right back with you.
I'm gonna bring up something that I've really wanted to like directly point out for a while now. Did anybody else get secondhand embarrassment when Daryl brought up Taylor expansions and Alan had no clue what that was? In fact, later on, he couldn't even recall what they were called. He called them the Taylor thing. What is it again? And I laughed so fucking hard the minute that came out of his mouth. Because if you understand the math, you're not gonna like forget the phrase Taylor expansion. Just like if you've done a course in linear algebra, you know what the identity matrix is. You can tell me exactly what that is, even if you took the class 35 years ago, because it's not a really complicated thing. Well, I mean, Taylor expansion isn't really complicated. They can get complicated. Anyway, I thought that was so hilarious. And to me, it showed explicitly that he does not know what he's talking about, that neither one of them understands the math. And I'm very, very glad that Daryl really pressed that point, because it's a very important point to press.
Now, my thoughts on that
good.
was, I was just going to say, I had mentioned at the beginning, one of the strong things that flat earthers do is they bring out papers, right? And they sort of, demonstrate that, hey, even your scientists sort of agree with us, or something like that anyway. And then when they were brought to the paper and sort of asked questions about details in the paper and just had no answer to it at all, I thought that really hurt them very bad. I mean, the Michelson Morley, I've heard that stupid paper referenced 800 times. And just let me tell you, if I had a PhD student that I was doing their dissertation and they reference a book or a paper from 1800s, they better have a stinking good reason to do it. I mean, we wouldn't even accept anything that old if they didn't have a real reason to reference
You're
something
not
that
even
old.
supposed to go more than 10 years, Dr. J.
Exactly. It's like 10, it's got to be within 10 years if you don't, unless you have a really good reason. So anyway, so they reference this paper all the time. And then when they were asked details about it, they couldn't answer them. I thought that was really, really hurtful, because this is the paper. They should know that thing inside and out, everything about it. And
And
I
then
thought that was a real takedown.
Daryl
he
pointed out
talked
that they were
about it.
quoting. Go ahead, Brenda. I'm sorry.
He talked about it for 19 hours, though. He did a whole show on it. That was
it was 3, but yeah, exactly. When he said, I mean, I thought all that was good. That sounded good until they started asking detailed questions on it and they couldn't answer. He should have just made up baloney and said the other guy was wrong, because I couldn't tell you which one was right. But when he literally like locked up, it was like, oh yeah, you don't know what you're talking about.
What was really funny is when Daryl pointed out, when he showed them that it was a second order study, whatever. I don't even know what the fuck that means.
I don't know what that means either.
And Alan kept saying it was first order, and it was the paper that he was citing from, I believe. And so he's citing this paper written by this author, and Daryl pointed out that that's the same author that says that this other study or something that he was also referencing was was second order, not first order. So you're gonna disagree with the same expert you're citing? What now? You can do that if like the thing you're disagreeing with them on is like some esoteric political thing or something like that. But like in the context of the science, like what the fuck is that? And I really liked when Daryl pointed that out too.
Actually, this is where I think Daryl really shined, in my opinion, was when Daryl, like, that's the thing. I remember that was what I was waxing on and harping on, is I'm like, you got to talk about the points. And he did. He said, I'm going to go to this Michelson-Morley engagement and let's talk about it. And I think that's the strongest thing. We have to go into this thing. And I asked a super chat, and unfortunately it's such a short time, but that was what I want to know. I'm like, explain what these orders of measurement are. Tell me what order 1 is. Tell me what level 2 is. Tell me about level 3, level 4. This is the meat and potatoes of what we're talking about here. Explain what these things are, because this is important to this paper. You're saying it's a level 2 engagement. What does that mean? Let's talk about that. I think that would have been really, really good. Let's deconstruct. And I agree with what you were saying before, Leo. let's go into the esoteric topics. Let's not debate flat Earth versus globe. Let's debate about the Michelson-Morley report. Is this research founded and good for this time? What are the implications of this document? That would be a much stronger thing than saying we're just going to talk about everything, and then we just land on nothing. Let's focus. And I think that was the strongest part of the debate was this report, because this is the foundation for many flat earthers.
Do you know how many times Whitsitt has claimed multiple times, and I have been there when he's done it, that he can show some sort of like equivalence or something like that between electrostatics and gravity, where he can replace G, something like the other that doesn't make any sense and is not a thing he can do. Every time he said it, and I have been there, I say, okay, do it, show me. And he's never done it because he can't, because that's not a thing.
Is it
Because
Coulomb's
gravity and
law?
electromagnetism are two different forces, and gravity isn't even technically.
Yes, I even asked him. I got the chance to ask him in an after show. Okay, let's take the proposition that that gravity is electrostatics, electromagnetics, whatever. Now, wouldn't we at the very least, affect its magnitude in some way if we put an object inside a Faraday cage and drop it? And he said no, because the Faraday cages are not perfect. And it's like, but dude, if it was like that, at the very least, the magnitude, the 9.8 meters per second square, would be affected in some way. You wouldn't measure 9.8 meters per second square. Maybe, yes, Faraday cages are not perfect. The object would still drop, but the rate of that drop would at least be affected in some way. And I like to ask very, very poignant questions. So he didn't answer that. I mean, he said, "Oh well, the cage is not perfect." And on the last show, I asked, I brought up the thing about the boat going away. How if you wait long enough,
Oh
you
my
could
God.
bring a massive
Dude.
telescope, and you wouldn't be able to bring it back no matter what you do.
Dude.
And
I
yeah,
remember that. Oh my
yeah.
fucking God. How done. Like, and I didn't get the chance to say it, but I wanted to clarify that, at least from my perspective, what you were saying is that, because they kept saying, oh, but angular resolution. And it sounded to me, at least, that you were saying, even within the angular resolution, if you have a device that you can see this, it will disappear even within its angular resolution, thereby showing that angular resolution ultimately does not matter. When it comes to this,
Yeah.
something else is the reason for its observed disappearance, and that's the curvature of the Earth.
And I have seen like massive, extremely, those gigantic tankers that take containers from here to there disappear. And before they disappear, they were still huge. I could see them with the naked eye. So if you brought, and I gave a very, very specific scenario which went completely unaddressed because angular resolution. It's like, okay, you're going to say keep saying that. I'm not we can agree to disagree, and we moved on.
Hey, Max.
Yes.
I'm going to take off.
Okay, no
It's late.
problem.
It's midnight for me, and I'm tired.
All right, it's 3 a.m. for me, but I'm a night owl,
Well,
so
Well,
thank you for
you're
joining
still-
us.
You're still young and a spring chicken.
Well,
You know,
I'm 35, so I'm not that young.
I'm
But
100
you.
Yeah, I'm 165. So.
Oh,
I'm
wow.
Yeah.
Thank
definitely.
you for coming today to the pre-show and to the after show, Brenda. You are a valued member of our panels, and we like your support of the channel. You're welcome back anytime. Thank you for being here.
And by the way, when Daryl said that, the thing that I thought of was, if anybody knows Mr. Cheesy Hands, and oops. Nobody knows this reference?
Yes,
Okay.
I do
I've
not.
seen Planar Walk use that clip.
Yes,
He's
yes.
writing on a chalkboard and says, oops, it's funny.
Yes, that's what I thought of.
Oh, okay.
Oh, well, peace out, Brenda. Wow.
Thank you so
I
much.
didn't get to say goodbye. See how
Maya
it is.
Atkinson asks, 3 a.m. Is he in Greenland? No, I'm in Uruguay. All right.
So- on some
Go-
of that same thought, though, I thought was a mistake by PhD Tony was when Daryl pointed out that they were not understanding their own papers, and I thought he just did a really good job of that. PhD Tony said something like, they're not qualified. They don't have the credentials to read these papers. He's sort of right. I get what he's saying, right? But he should not say that, right? In my opinion, that is not the way to go. You say you just don't understand them. You could be
I
credentialed and
100%
not be able to
agree.
understand them. You can there are people that can spin that have a lot less education than me that can spin me up and down in Greek and Hebrew. It's not my expertise. They could crush me, even though technically I had a million Greek and Hebrew classes. And so you don't want to shorthand it that way. He's sort of right in the shorthand, but that's a mistake. He shouldn't say that because just because they aren't credentialed doesn't mean they couldn't understand them. But it was good to point out that they didn't understand them. So anyway, I thought that was a big mistake and took away a little bit from what Daryl had done.
Yeah, it's a little bit weird uh when you say stuff like that, even though it may be true, but it comes off as a little bit aggressive. And the spirit of the channel here is we don't like to do those kinds of attacks in general. So yeah, it gets weird. Isa,
I was
you
going to say
raising your
that.
hand?
Yeah, I'm saying I agree 1000% with Dr. J. That's actually one of the things that gave me the ick. I was like, wait a second here. You can't, if you're going to debate, it comes off sounding like an ad hominem. You're saying you don't have the credentials. You're not smart enough to be able to talk about this stuff. You don't have the capacity to do it. Thus, whatever you say is false. That's not a good logical space for your interlocutor. Handle it in a different way. You can agree with that position and believe that and say, yeah, these people don't know. That's nonsense. Don't bring it up. And I think PhD Tony understood that at the end, where he's like, yeah, I screwed up. I got a little pissed off. In my anger, I said some stuff that I really shouldn't have said. And he was right. Don't say this stuff, PhD Tony. It does not make your argument look good. The way he could have handled it is like, hey, do take a Socratic approach. This is how I would have handled it. And said, hey, you brought up these points. Can you teach us about it? Tell us more about what these things mean. Explain the formula. Explain how it works. Then you could say, oh, well, my understanding is I'm going to compute the formula and show you how the formula works. Look at this formula. So can you tell me about where you learned about this? Where did this come from? Allow them to sink their own ship. Don't try to come in and say, I'm going to beat you. Let them do it. If you believe they're not qualified to do this, then you have to let them show the gaps in the knowledge. Allow them to demonstrate that for themselves. Then you look smart, you look good, and you don't look like you don't look kind of like an arrogant, snubby ivory tower. I don't know. There's this movie called God's Not Dead. You should all watch it. It's a wild trip. But there's a part where there's like these atheists that are like twiddling their fingers, and they're like, and then this Christian woman comes in to serve the wine, and they're all like, it's the grapes of wrath. Like they act like they're so much smarter and snooty, and this type of attitude is what a lot of people feel about atheists. That they're like pompousness, that they're snooty, they're so above you, and they're like, and the Christians are just so down to the earth. They're good, down to earth people, and these atheists are these snooty people in ivory towers with their big degrees, you know. And I think that's not a good move for someone who's taking this position. Don't buy into that stereotype. Don't be the snooty PhD. Okay.
Pompous ass.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Max.
elitism would be the best way to describe that. It's kind of like discriminating them because they didn't go to college. I didn't go to college either, so yeah, it gets into some murky terrain, which in this, as part of the philosophy of the channel, we prefer to avoid. I do have a couple of Leo, go ahead, but I'm going to we're going to cover a few of the messages we have been receiving. So Leo, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I very much agree with what Isa was saying there about the Socratic method and using that. One thing that I would say about it, though, is sometimes it's probably going to turn people off from the debate. I've employed the Socratic method a lot with Christians, and I've done it with some flat earthers. And one thing that you'll run into is, well, dodging. the questions you ask will be dodged. And so this is what I say. This is the approach I take. When I'm doing a Socratic method, I'm probably going to be a little bit of an ass, because if at least if you're dodging, if you're not answering the questions that are being asked, and I'm not going to be asking vague questions when I'm doing this. That's just not fair to people. You don't ask vague questions. Or if you do your best to qualify the question. And when you don't provide just simple yes, no answers, maybe give a little bit of an explanation for your answer, then it's going to be we're going to have a really tough time. I'm going to have to take you by the hand and walk you like a toddler through how to have a discussion, because that's essentially what it ends up being if you're dealing with a dodger, somebody who dodges the questions. And it gets very, very frustrating. And I've had a lot of people claim that I'm like angry or upset when I do this in rooms with some Christians. And, it's not about being angry, maybe some frustration, but that's how you have to deal with people who dodge questions. Because if you don't put their feet to the flames, if they're running away, you don't grill them, you don't, no, I'm not going to let you do this, then they will do it and do it and do it and do it. And you got to be tough on them. You have to be. And you're probably going to come off as somewhat of an ass.
I think you can be tough on people in that way with being nice the whole time. I really do. You let them talk, you let them whatever, and you go, "Oh, so anyway, you know what I mean?" Like, I think when you get even if people think you're angry, it's not a good look. I think you can, like Daryl, I thought was a master class. He held him to the fire, right? He even told PhD Tony to be quiet so he could finish, right? But he stayed, cool and calm the whole time and still held him to the fire. I think you can do both of those. You don't have to be a jerk at all, and you can still be pretty direct and forceful with people.
Well, it's not necessarily about being jerk as much as it is about being tough. And that's naturally going to be a little bit, people are going to see that as more just being standoffish, even though it's not. And one thing about letting people finish is that these kinds of people, because I've dealt with them, dodgers, they ramble. It's a waste of my time. I'm trying to have a discussion with you. Other people are trying to listen to that discussion. It's a waste of my time. It's a waste of the audience's time. And I'm not going to let you do it. You're dodging. Stop. That's the way I look at it. It's dishonest. And you know what? I think dodging is rude. I think dodging is being a jerk. And if you're going to be a jerk to me, well, you know what? This whole take the higher ground, that's bullshit. That's not how it works. Not in all situations, at least.
All right, we're going to go through a couple of messages from the audience, given that we don't really have much to go into, like a debate or a post discussion between us. We sort of go along the same lines here, but some interesting messages have been coming. Maximiliano Villa says, demons. Yes, we are all demons, and science is Satanism.
Just Ozian, guys. Ozian's and Nephilim, we all know it.
Oh, yeah. One of the things that I've been pushing to get into the Matters Now merchandise is I Am Nephilim shirts. I want I Am a Nephilim shirt. So, yeah, I hope that everyone, if you see Ocean, to ask him when are the I Am a Nephilim shirt going to come with the Matters Now logo. I would wear that all day, every day. We have a couple of statements from Beamsy.
Before that, can I just say something really fast? Really fast.
All right.
By the way, Dr. J, I don't disagree with that point that you were making. I just wanted to clarify that.
All right. Beamsy says, if there was something like a dome, it would have to be made of something, but there has never been any return across any spectrum saying there is nothing over us. And Big Beamsy strikes again. Every planetarium would operate different and not be 100% accurate as they are as they have been done mechanically, and they are still accurate. Correct. Uruguay for a time had the oldest planetarium in service, and a couple of years ago, I went to the last show of the planetarium with the original equipment, and then they modified it, they modernized it into a new laser planetarium. And I went to the first show of that 1 year after, and it was mind-blowing. Planetariums are awesome.
Can I comment on
And
Beansy's last, or rather his very first comment that you brought up, the one about the dome?
yes.
So this is something I've asked, and if you go watch some of the debates on my channel, I'm pretty sure there's a few of them in there where I've pressed this as much as I'm allowed to, at least. I've pressed this very point with so many flat earthers. Okay, so if there's a dome above the earth, I always ask, is it physical? Usually I get a yes. Okay, what is it made of? Is it made of matter? And then it's always they don't know what it's made of. And I say, okay, but then how do you know that it's there? What is it that you first interacted with to know that there is this anomaly that we now call the dome? How did you figure this out? And there's no questions. And I love doing this with flat earthers, just really digging in. Well, okay, how does this work? How does that work? And asking the questions. And this is one they really can't answer. That's all I wanted to say about that. It's one you should press, because flat earthers don't have answers. They don't know what the dome is made out of. They don't know how far away it is. They know literally nothing. They have no facts about its structure, the way it interacts with anything, but they know it's there.
It's
All
magic.
right.
Brother, you know what
It's
I think would be
magic.
useful, Leo, and I think the audience, the panel here, I think what I would love in these debates is let's discuss the flat Earth cosmology. I want to talk about ether. I want to talk about the firmament. I want to talk about the Michelson-Morley and the electrostatic and the kinematic equivalents. These things would be helpful. Let's talk about all this stuff. And I heard PhD Tony talk about ether, but I'm like, go deeper, brother. Don't talk about your stuff. Talk about their stuff. So ask about ether. Let's talk about ether. And I don't know why none of these Globers do that. They don't go and say, hey, man, let's have a conversation about ether. Explain how the
You know
ether
why?
works.
Remember that time that Dr. J asked a very, very good question and started framing it by saying, okay, forget I subscribe to the globe. Tell me, what do you think the sun is? And they didn't want to answer that question. They went immediately into the reversal. Oh, but you think the globe is... And Dr. J was like, hey, but that's not what I asked. Tell me what you think the sun is. And they refused to answer that. Do you remember that? Yes, Dr. J.
Holy
is awesome.
shit, that's really impressive. God, I wish I could have been there to see that. Because that's a
I
really
key,
good
Leo,
line of
the
questioning.
key is to
This is why
not
we need Dr. J on the
actually
panel.
know anything about this. When I say I can't defend the globe, I'm like being 100% honest. I'm not a scientist, you know.
All right,
You're
we
so
have
Dr. J,
social
Dr.
science.
J, I saw you on that sovereign guy's video too. That was with Joe Cool. That was pretty funny.
It took me
I got a
hours to
kick out
get
of it.
there. Did you?
You're like, I
did
waited
you
2
wait?
hours, man. Like, I waited 2 hours. Let me just say something, Joe. And he's like, all right, man. All right.
Well, I wanted to say one thing. I'm sorry. I think it's super
no
important.
problem.
Again, and Leo was about to comment on it too. It's like let's talk about this ether. What is this ether? What are the components of ether? You've been talking all scientifically. You're telling me all about Gauss's law. You're telling me about kinematic equivalences versus dynamics. You've been telling me all about the science. It's very good. Now let's talk about ether. Explain how the ether works. What is ether? I could say, that ether, that is the medicine that people use, the drug ether. Okay. What is this ether you're talking about? Is there just some gas in the sky?
Toby that question. I asked him, what is, like, so what is, well, first I asked him, is the ether physical? He was like, yeah. And I was like, what is it made of? He couldn't answer the question. I was like, but like, name some properties that it has. And like, he started rambling about things that weren't properties of the ether. And I'm like, so you know literally nothing about this some sort of structure, but you know that it's there. Just like with the dome, the firmament, like they don't have anything.
And that's it.
And then
that's
exactly.
That's how you can win this argument. Don't get angry. Don't say, "Oh, you don't have PhD." No, don't bring any of that up. Just tell us what's ether. What's this firmament? What is it made out of? How does it work? You know all about kinematic equivalence. Very impressive. Now tell me about ether. This is your storehouse. This is my science. This is your science. I mean, you could say I was researching ether. And you know what I found out? Mythology. I looked up mythology, and that's where ether was. Can you show me ether in a scientific textbook? You told me all about Michelson Morley, but can you show me a textbook about ether? Maybe it's from the 15th century. Maybe you'll have the textbook from there.
One really good question to ask flat earthers when they talk, particularly when they talk about, electrostatics and it doing this and it replacing gravity and all this, is just to be like, okay, suppose I accept that. I think you're right there. Can you derive the equations of motion? Can you give me what the equations of motion would be for this theory? And again, you're going to get nothing, because most of the time they couldn't even define like what equations of motion are, even though that's, I would imagine, should be pretty easy to do. But it's exactly the point. Once you actually get to the fundamentals of their model and what they're saying, like Daryl did, you realize that they don't know anything. They don't have anything. They can't get into those specifics because they don't really know what they're talking about.
All right, I'm going to John, taking back Eden, sends $2 Canadian. Planet of the Apes, chimps, gores, orangutans, and gibbons, and you are missing the one we are closest to, which is the bonobo. But this came up during the debate, and he asked the question to Daryl if he supported evolution, and it's not his field of expertise. But I mean, the scientific
Not a part of the
consensus
debate,
is that,
even.
yeah, exactly.
That's what
the scientific consensus is that evolution is absolutely true, and the amount of evidence is overwhelming to support it.
But I'll tell you why they have a problem with evolution. There's a reason why. It's because it has to do with human exceptionalism.
Yep.
And this idea that we as humans are animals is just so abhorrent as an idea. It's just an abhorrent idea to think, even though what is not animalistic about us? How we procreate, pretty animalistic, how we eat, how we relieve ourselves, everything. This is what all the other animals do, like our organs, our hair. It's like, I don't know why it makes people feel so upset that we are we're a human animal. I don't know what's so insane about this, but I think it makes people feel like, no, I need to be exceptionally better than everything. And I'm like, okay.
You know what I love saying when they say, no, we're not animals? I go, wait, what the fuck are we? Plants? Protozoa? Like what? What are? Yeah, of course we're animals.
All right, and I have something else I want to address, and we're going to. I have a couple of more messages I've been saving. Eureka Akeru says, "Gee, NASA, we've proven you fake photos. Why did you do this as scientists?" And the one thing I love to bring up when people talk about fake photos, and I've said this many, many times, I'm pretty sure this is your first time here. If you go to Google and you type in, for example, Mars rover mission, and you type raw image, RAW, raw images are files, types of files that can only be written by cameras. There's no software that can allow you to write a raw file. So if you want to access the unprocessed images, which are usually black and white, because a lot of them are taken with infrared cameras, you can go to any space agency website or even Google, type in the mission you want, type raw files, RAW, and you can get those images without any kind of alterations or them being CGI. And the other thing that came up during the debate, but no one pressed on it, it came like in passing, was that CGI technology wasn't available in the 60s. In the 60s, the pinnacle of computer graphics was the game Pong. Okay? So you can't invoke CGI prior to the invention of CGI. That's an anachronism. So unless you also have to, if you do that, you have to claim that they already had this
Oh, but the
technology, but
government gave them like
computers.
special technology and stuff
They,
that
they
they
think
didn't
that
tell us
there's
about and
a
that they didn't release until like the
exactly
90s.
Yes,
exactly.
That's literally what they say. It's insane.
That's exactly what they say.
that's
Because
what I
the
was
government
going
usually
to.
does have top secret technology they don't want to talk about, and that just fuels their
But
curiosity even more.
to your average flat earther, the government is this. I say it that way on purpose. The government is this like omnipotent, omnipresent, evil thing that's trying to. I don't know, like replace white people or something like that is usually with the claim that you hear, which make that I don't that doesn't even make sense. Like what? How does that work? Like it makes no sense. Anyway, yeah,
Yeah,
it's always
that's
the
a
government.
pretty. Yeah, I mean, but you have to stack conspiracy on top of conspiracy. So at what point does it end?
Oh, it never ends.
It
That's the
never
point.
ends.
It
Yeah,
goes
I
into
mean,
a rabbit hole.
Man.
they even
Earth rabbit hole.
today, let's say in 2026 the mission to the moon, the next mission to the moon happens, and people will get, for example, 4K video. They will cry CGI, even though you can see it in like super crisp quality. It's like John Malaya said, Witted is streaming an after debate show, just FYI. Yes,
Nobody cares.
he actually copied us. We do after shows.
Well, nobody cares about Witsits after show anyway.
Yeah,
Leo,
and that
you're
after
killing me,
show,
brother. You are very funny. You should do some stand up. You're really
Oh,
funny.
I could not do stand up. I
You're
I
funny.
would bomb so hard.
No, you just talk about flat Earth. Just come up there and be like, I was on this debate talking about flat Earth, and you know what? All these people are saying some crazy stuff. When I started asking them the questions, they didn't know nothing. Like, you have been funny, man. You could just throw your little one-liners in there. You're funny, man. I think you would do good.
were you talking to Leo or to me?
So Leo, Leo's really
Okay.
funny.
Yeah, I'm the funny
All
one
right.
now.
Well, you should come to one of our Wednesday shows and have some laughs with us.
Oh yeah, Max and I, we host a show on like mythology and stuff. So we read all kinds of wild books. You read Arabian Nights last time. Come. That's a plug. Come on Wednesdays to watch us.
Yes.
We read wild stuff.
Well, let me take this opportunity to do some promotions then. So next Wednesday, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we're going to be talking about kings, princes, and rulers that were absolutely crazy. And it's going to be a very interesting chat. I've got some very, very outlandish and crazy things. It's going to be awesome. Leo, if you want to join us, you're invited. We are hosting it with Isa and I Killed Earl. It's called Tell Me That Story Show, and it's right here on Matters Now, Wednesdays, 9 p.m. On Monday, we have a triple threat debate. We have us debating Dr. J and Hussein. What is the best society? Atheist, Christian, and Muslim. I don't think it's going to be like a proper debate. It's more of a discussion where all of them are great. So I'm really looking forward. I will be expectant here. Like, I'm anxious for that one. I'm really excited that is happening. And next show on March the 9th, which is Saturday, Deep Drinks is going to join Earl and Justin for the Deep Six show, which is formerly known as the Shorts Show. So, anything else you would like to bring up as part of our open discussion? Go ahead.
I just watched about 30 seconds of Witsit's stream just for shits and gigs,
All right.
And he was rambling about cosmic rays and neutrinos and how if they come from the sun, then that's cosmic rays. What? Cosmic rays come from outside of the solar system. Solar rays come from the sun. These people are hilarious. Like, absolutely hilarious.
I bet nobody's talking for like 20 minutes and he's just sitting there talking because that's what he wants. That's why he doesn't want to be on this show, because we
Oh,
wouldn't
of
just let
course
him
not.
talk for 20 minutes straight.
Yeah, it has been like a point of contention, and I don't know. It's I think he's kind of half cool with me, but not entirely. I don't know. It's weird, but I'm super nice to everyone. I don't know what he could, what he wouldn't like about me. So it's hard to
The Earth is a
decipher.
globe.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but I'm nice, and I don't insult
but
people.
I
I
don't
wait
care.
and I
It's
wait
just
until
like
they're
a
done.
conservative with trans people. But I'm nice. I have a job. I contribute to. So I don't care. You're trans. Yeah, but I treat people with respect. I'm just yeah, but you're trans, so I hate you. So you're bad. You evil groomer.
All right, let's drop that subject. We don't want to get demonetized.
Oh no, you're not gonna get demonetized.
No, I hope we had a close call with that, but we appealed and we won. So the video got back to full monetization. Okay, let's go around, and I don't think we have much else to say unless someone wants to bring in a topic. But if not, we can go around, give our final thoughts, and we will leave it here for tonight. All right. So, Billy, final thoughts. Take it away while we say goodbye.
Well, I've talked about this stuff a lot, so I'm just gonna say something that may be kind of stupid, but whatever. I think that Allen guy kind of reminds me of that Chum Lee guy from Pawn Stars. That's what I'm gonna say.
Okay, fair enough. It's a good comparison. He was a good character. I like Chumley. He was started as the comedy relief. What's it called? The type of character which is only intended for comedy, but he grew as a character in that show. So yeah, fair assessment. Dr. J, final thoughts?
I thought, as far as flat Earth debates go, it was pretty good. I thought everyone was fairly prepared. I thought everybody did a quite good job. I didn't think it was. They do get pretty mad. PhD Tuna, I wish he wouldn't get so upset. And also, I forget what his name was. They were getting upset, and when they start saying who interrupted who more is annoying. But for the most part, it was good. I do encourage you to come Monday to check out our discussion. How to have a society with multiple religions and being able to agree on the rules and being able to agree on, you know, what should the rules be? Because it seems like the rules shouldn't be like, well, whichever one of us has the most authority wins, and you follow our rules. If those aren't going to be the rules, what are they going to be? So I think that's going to be an interesting discussion. I think Ozzy and I might have an idea of how we would do it together, but Hussein coming in and suggesting how he's going to do it's going to be very interesting. Is he going to see it the same way we do? I'm not really sure. So encourage you to come check it out.
Oh yeah, I'm so excited for that one. Leo, final thoughts before we get the hell out.
If somebody can't explain the fundamentals of their ideas to you, it should at least raise an eyebrow.
All right. Anything else?
The fat lady is singing.
Isa, final thoughts before we take it away.
I really enjoyed the conversation. I think it was interesting. There were a lot of interesting ideas that came up. I agree with a lot of the stuff that we said. I wish we could shift to some more interesting esoteric topics and focus on that. My favorite part was the focus on the Michelson-Morley document. I wish we could have had a breakdown of what these different level orders are and how they work.
Yeah.
As a person who's an academic, as we've discussed, to me that's important. I need to know the functionality of how these things are working. If you're going to debate esoteric things with me, then you gotta give me your foundations of your arguments. And yeah, I would have really liked that. I think PhD Tony was attempting to answer my question, which I appreciated. But I thought it was fun. I definitely think another part I think would be really cool in these flat Earth globe debates is debating the flat Earth philosophy and debating those constructs and not debating the globe constructs. We've heard
Mhm.
the globe construct. We know all of this stuff, okay? We've heard Eratosthenes over and over and over again. See, now I know how to say it. We've been saying it over and over and over and over and over again. We know what the globe model is. Let's learn what the globe criticism model. If we're going to debate this, we might as well talk about that. So that's all I got to say.
All right. And almost with the buzzer, Maximiliano Villa gifted 5 memberships that were received by John Smith, Hayward Jeb Lomi, Christopher Fisher, Mr. B, Flat Out Fudge. You are all members. Enjoy your icons. And before I leave, I'm going to do some light housekeeping and remind you what we have coming up. This Wednesday, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Isa, Earl, and myself, we're doing Crazy Kings and Rulers from History. And this Monday, I'm sorry, I started by Wednesday. This Monday, we have a debate or a discussion on which is the best society, atheist, Christian, and Muslim, us, Dr. J, and Hussein. That is going to be awesome. 7 p.m. Monday. We are hoping you can all make it. And make sure to check out all the content. Like, subscribe, share it with a friend. We're only 30 subscribers away from 10,000. Can you believe it? 10,000. We used to do these shows and it was just us rambling again on the internet with like a couple of people in the audience. And now we have 121 people watching us live and almost 10,000 followers. So we owe it all to you. We do this because of you, and we love having you here because this is Matters Now, where your voice matters. Today, we couldn't get any flat earthers on the panel, but we regularly get people from all walks of life coming and sharing their thoughts with us. And we want to make this a safe environment for everyone to come and share their opinions. On the pre-show, we had Flatman B, who is also a regular on the channel. And without anything else to say, we're going to leave it here for tonight. And we hope you have a great, great weekend. We'll see you in the next stream or in the next video. Thank you so much for being there and take care.